The 9 alchemical shifts from hustle to inspired action for effortless wealth. The modern alchemist's dilemma. I mean truly, deeply tired. Tired of the constant push. The relentless voice, both outside and inside, that insists you must do more, be more, hustle harder to earn your place, to claim your abundance. And yet, are you also tired of waiting? Tired of the passive hope that if you just visualize enough, if you just let go enough, prosperity will magically fall into your lap, only to be met with a frustrating silence? This is the great spiritual trap of our time, a seemingly impossible choice between the burnout of the material world and the stagnation of the passive dreamer. What if both paths are an illusion? What if the real key to wealth is not found in more effort or in the absence of it, but in a completely different quality of action altogether? An action born from your soul's deepest truth. Welcome, fellow alchemist, to a space of transformation. My name is Elias Vance. What you have just felt, that tension, that deep exhaustion from being pulled in two opposing directions, is the lead that we will now together transmute into gold. This audiobook is not another set of rules to follow. It is not a call to work harder, nor is it permission to do nothing. It is an initiation, an invitation to learn the language of your own inner guidance system, so that every step you take, every decision you make, becomes an act of powerful magnetic alignment. Over the course of our journey today, we will deconstruct the myths of hustle culture and passive manifestation. We will explore the 9 sacred alchemical shifts required to move from a state of force to a state of flow. You will not only learn to recognize the feeling of inspired action, but to cultivate it, to make it the very foundation of your financial life. This is the journey to end the war between your ambition and your spirit. This is the path to becoming abundance, not just acquiring it. So take a deep breath. Settle into this moment. The great work is about to begin. Chapter 1. The 2 false paths. Hustle's burnout and surrender's stagnation. Let us begin by mapping the prison before we attempt to locate the key. Most spiritually aware individuals who feel stuck in their financial lives are pacing back and forth in a cell with 2 doors, both of them leading to a dead end. On one side, the door is labeled hustle. On the other, surrender. And the profound inner conflict, the core pain point that so many of you feel, comes from the belief that you must choose one. Let's look at that first door, hustle. The world screams its gospel from every screen and billboard. Rise and grind. Crush it. Outwork everyone. It's a philosophy built on the belief that your value, and therefore your reward, is directly proportional to the amount of sheer, grinding effort you expend. It treats the universe like a stubborn opponent that must be wrestled into submission. And for a while, it can even feel like it's working. You push, you strive, you sacrifice sleep and peace of mind, and you might see some material progress. But at what cost? Hustle culture is a ghost that haunts the spiritually minded. It creates a deep, gnawing guilt. A part of you knows that your worth is inherent, not earned through exhaustion. A part of you understands the principle of flow, of allowing. Yet when the bills are due, when the goals seem distant, that voice of the world gets louder. You're not doing enough. And so you push, and with every push, you feel a little more disconnected from your own soul. I remember a client, a brilliant graphic designer named Marcus. He had built a successful freelance business, working 16-hour days. He had all the external markers of success, but he confessed to me in our first session, "Elias, I feel like I'm running a race where the finish line keeps moving further away. I'm making more money than ever, but I've never felt poorer." His words were a perfect diagnosis of the disease of hustle. It's a system that runs on the fuel of not enough. You are not doing enough, so you must hustle. You do not have enough, so you must hustle. You are not enough, so you must hustle. It leads inevitably to burnout. Not just a physical tiredness, but a soul-deep exhaustion. A creative and spiritual depletion, where the joy of your work is replaced by the grim duty of it. Your body starts to rebel. Your intuition goes silent, drowned out by the noise of your own frantic effort. You become a stranger to yourself. And the worst part, the results become unsustainable, because energy built on force and fear is brittle. It shatters easily. When you operate from hustle, you are building a financial house on a foundation of sand, constantly scrambling to patch the cracks as they appear. It is a path of diminishing returns, and it will never ever lead to the peace and freedom you truly seek. It is a false door. Now let's look at the other door, the one labeled surrender. For many who have been burned by the fire of hustle culture, this door seems like a sanctuary. This is the world of passive manifestation. The philosophy here is, let go and let God. If it's meant to be, it will be. Just visualize and the universe will deliver. And there are profound truths buried within these ideas. The principle of allowing, of non-resistance, is absolutely essential to the alchemical process. But a misinterpretation of this principle has created a seductive trap, the pitfall of passive waiting. So many well-intentioned souls sit in meditation, scripting in their journals, creating vision boards, and then they wait for the phone to ring. They wait for the perfect opportunity to land in their lap. They mistake surrender for abdication. They give up their co-creative power in the name of trust. And what happens? Stagnation, missed opportunities, a slow, creeping sense of powerlessness as the world moves on without them. I spoke once with a woman, Clara, who had spent 2 years manifesting her dream business. She had a perfect vision for it, a beautiful plan. She affirmed it daily, but she never registered the business name. She never made the phone call to a potential supplier. She never built the simple website. When I gently asked her why, she said, "I'm waiting for a clear sign from the universe. I don't want to force it." Clara had fallen into the trap of spiritual bypassing. She was using a spiritual concept, surrender, to avoid the very human experience of taking a risk, of stepping into the unknown, of grounding her vision in reality. True surrender is not about doing nothing. It is about releasing your attachment to a specific outcome and a specific timeline. It is not about refusing to pick up the tools. It's about trusting that you'll be guided on how to use them. Passive waiting creates a different kind of energetic blockage. While hustle creates a frantic, chaotic frequency, passivity creates a stagnant one. It's like a still, murky pond. Nothing flows in and nothing flows out. It can breed a subtle sense of victimhood, a feeling that life is happening to you rather than through you. You lose momentum, and momentum is the currency of creation. So here you are, standing in this hallway. One door leads to the burnout of a machine, the other to the stagnation of a statue. Both are illusions. Both are rooted in a fundamental misunderstanding of your role in the creative process of the universe. The conflict you feel, that guilt, that confusion, it is your soul's intelligence telling you that neither of these is your path. The true path is not a choice between these two doors. It is a third way, a path that walks straight through the wall between them. It is the path of inspired action. It is the synthesis of divine trust and deliberate grounded action. It is the sacred dance of being and doing. And understanding how to walk this path begins with learning to hear its music, the music of your own inner frequency. Chapter 2. The Third Way. Understanding your inner frequency. To find the third way, we must first discard the old map. The map of hustle and surrender is a flat, two-dimensional drawing. The reality we operate in is holographic, energetic, vibrational. Everything you are, everything you desire, everything you experience is a matter of frequency, a resonance, and your most important task as a conscious creator is not to manage your time or your tasks, but to manage your frequency. So what is this inner frequency? It's a term we use often in spiritual circles, but what does it actually mean in a tangible sense? Think of it as your energetic signature. It is the sum total of your dominant thoughts, your core beliefs, your emotional state, and the stories you tell yourself about who you are and how the world works. It's not a fleeting mood. It's your baseline state of being. It's the silent broadcast you are constantly sending out to the universe, and the law of attraction, in its purest form, is not about getting what you want. It is about getting what you are. The universe doesn't respond to the words you say or the vision board on your wall. It responds to the frequency you hold. It's a mirror reflecting your own energetic state back to you in the form of people, circumstances, and yes, financial situations. This is why someone can work 18-hour days from a frequency of scarcity and fear, and only manage to create more situations that validate that scarcity and fear. Their actions are loud, but their frequency is broadcasting, I am lacking, I am struggling, it's hard. And the universe, the great mirror, simply says yes and provides more evidence. Conversely, this is why someone can sit in passive hope from a frequency of unworthiness, visualizing millions, while their energy quietly whispers, I don't deserve this. Who am I to have such wealth? Their desires are grand, but their frequency is broadcasting, I am not a match for this. And the universe, again, simply says yes, and keeps that abundance at a safe distance. Understanding your inner frequency is about becoming a detective of your own inner world. It's about asking not what should I do, but who am I being? What is the dominant energetic story I'm living out right now? So, how do you know when you're out of sync? How can you identify when your actions are misaligned with your desired reality? The signs are not subtle. They are your body's and your life's built-in guidance system. The first and most powerful sign is the feeling of resistance. Resistance is that feeling of swimming upstream. It's the sensation of pushing a heavy boulder up a hill. When an action is misaligned, it feels hard. And I don't mean challenging in a growth-oriented way. I mean heavy, draining, and joyless. It's the phone call you have to force yourself to make. It's the project you procrastinate on endlessly. It's the work that leaves you feeling depleted rather than energized. This feeling is not a sign of your own laziness or weakness. It is a sacred signal from your inner guidance system screaming, "Wrong way!" Hustle culture teaches us to ignore this signal. It tells us to push through the pain. This is like driving your car while the oil light is flashing and the engine is making a terrible noise, and simply turning up the radio to drown it out. It's a recipe for a breakdown. Misaligned action, born of hustle, is always accompanied by this friction, this internal grinding of gears. Another clear sign you're out of sync is a lack of synchronicity. When you are in alignment, in flow, the universe conspires with you. Things just work. You think of someone and they call you. You need a specific piece of information, and it appears in an article you randomly click on. The right people and opportunities seem to show up at the perfect time. This isn't magic, it's physics. It's resonance. Your clear, coherent frequency is attracting experiences that match it. When you are out of alignment, the opposite happens. You experience delays, frustrations, and obstacles at every turn. The printer jams right before the big meeting. The client you were counting on disappears. The technology fails. These aren't punishments from the universe. They are simply reflections of your own incoherent, resistant energy. Your broadcast is full of static, so the reflection you get back is equally chaotic and frustrating. Life feels like a series of unfortunate events rather than a divinely orchestrated dance. A third sign is the state of your physical body. Your body is the most honest barometer of your energetic state. It cannot lie. When you are consistently taking misaligned action, your body will tell you. It might manifest as chronic tension in your shoulders or neck, a persistent low-grade anxiety that settles in your stomach, trouble sleeping, headaches, a compromised immune system. This is your body's way of processing the dissonant energy of forced effort. It's absorbing the stress of that internal conflict between your actions and your soul's truth. Feeling constantly drained, even after a full night's sleep, is a classic symptom of living in the energy of hustle. It's because your energy isn't just being spent on the task at hand. It's being spent fighting your own inner resistance to doing it. So what does alignment feel like? What is the frequency we are aiming for? Alignment feels like ease. It feels like flow. It feels like inspiration. The word inspiration literally means in spirit. It is when the divine is breathing through you. An action taken from this state feels light, energizing, and often inevitable. It doesn't require massive amounts of willpower to initiate because it arises from a deep internal yes. It pulls you forward rather than you having to push it. It's the difference between paddling a canoe against a raging current and simply steering it as the river carries you along. Both involve action. Both involve paddling. But the quality of the energy, the quality of the experience, is worlds apart. True financial alignment isn't about having a certain number in your bank account. It's about reaching a state where your actions concerning money, how you earn it, spend it, invest it, and think about it, are all in harmony with your deepest values and your soul's purpose. It's a frequency of worthiness, trust, and creative power. The first step in this entire alchemical process is to stop pushing, to stop waiting, and simply to listen, to become a student of your own energy, to learn to read the signals of resistance and flow. Because until you can hear the music, you cannot join the dance. In our next chapter, we will learn how to consciously change the station, how to make the alchemical shift from the frantic noise of hustle to the resonant harmony of inspired action. Chapter 3. The Alchemical Shift. Transmuting effort into inspired action, we have identified the two false paths and learned to recognize the feeling of our own inner frequency. Now we arrive at the heart of the alchemy, the great work. The conscious transmutation of leaden, forced effort into golden, inspired action. This is not a one-time event. It is a new way of being. It's a fundamental shift in how you relate to your goals, your work, and your wealth. The core principle of this alchemical shift is this: the power of an action is determined not by the physical effort it contains, but by the energetic alignment from which it is born. Let me repeat that. The power of an action is determined by the alignment from which it is born. A single phone call made from a state of pure, joyful inspiration and clarity can be more powerful and productive than 100 calls made from a place of desperate, anxious hustle. 1 hour of focused, creative work done in a state of flow can achieve more than a 12-hour day spent grinding away in resistance. This is the secret that transcends the linear logic of time plus effort equals results. It introduces the quantum variable, consciousness. So, how do we make this shift? It begins with redefining the nature of action itself. In the hustle paradigm, action is seen as the cause. You act, and therefore you get a result. In the inspired action paradigm, the action is the effect. The cause is your internal state of alignment. You first achieve a state of energetic resonance with your desire, and the inspired action is the natural, inevitable next step that arises from that state. It's the physical manifestation of an energetic reality that you have already created on the inside. This completely flips the conventional model of success on its head. Instead of asking, "What actions do I need to take to get wealthy?" the alchemist asks, "What state of being do I need to embody so that wealth-creating actions become my natural impulse?" You see the difference? It's a shift from an outside-in approach to an inside-out reality. Let's get practical. How do you distinguish, in the moment, between a nudge from your soul and a command from your ego's hustle-driven conditioning? There are several energetic markers. First, inspired action feels expansive. When the idea for an inspired action comes to you, it creates a feeling of lightness, excitement, or even a quiet, calm sense of rightness in your body. It opens you up. Your breathing might deepen. You might feel a subtle tingle of excitement. It feels like a possibility unfolding. Forced action or hustle feels constrictive. It's accompanied by a feeling of pressure, anxiety, and tightness in the body, often in the chest, stomach, or shoulders. It comes from a should or a have to. It's driven by a fear of what will happen if you don't do it. The energy is one of avoidance, not creation. Second, inspired action is often simple and immediate. The universe speaks in whispers. The next inspired step is rarely a giant, complicated 5-year plan. It's usually the very next simple, obvious thing. It's the urge to send that one email, the sudden idea to visit a particular bookstore, the impulse to call a friend you haven't spoken to in years. It's often small, illogical, and doesn't seem directly connected to the grand outcome. I had a client once, an author struggling with writer's block on her book about finance. She was trying to hustle through it, forcing herself to sit at her desk for hours, producing nothing. During a session, I encouraged her to stop trying and just listen. The first inspired thought that came to her was, "Go to the art museum." It made no sense. It was procrastination, her ego screamed. But she followed it. At the museum, she saw a painting of an ancient merchant, and in that moment, an entire new framework for her book downloaded into her mind. She went home, and the words flowed effortlessly. That is the nature of inspired action. It trusts the next step without needing to see the entire staircase. Hustle, on the other hand, is always preoccupied with the grand, complex strategy. It's about brute force. It tries to figure everything out in advance and control every variable. It dismisses the simple, intuitive nudges as distractions. Third, inspired action is detached from the immediate outcome. When you take an inspired action, you do it for the joy and rightness of the action itself. The energy is clean. You send the email because it feels right to send it, not because you are desperately attached to getting a specific reply. You create the product because the act of creation itself is fulfilling. This detachment is magnetic. It signals to the universe a deep trust, a frequency of wholeness that says, my well-being is not dependent on this specific result. Hustle is the opposite. Every action is transactional and laden with desperate attachment. It is needy. It practically reeks of a desperate energy that says, I need this to work out, otherwise I am not okay. This needy, grasping energy repels the very opportunities it seeks to attract. It's like trying to catch a butterfly with a clenched fist. The very act of grasping crushes the delicate thing you seek. Making this alchemical shift requires courage. It requires the courage to be still when every fiber of your conditioned mind is screaming at you to do something. It requires the courage to trust an intuitive nudge that makes no logical sense. And it requires the courage to value the quality of your being over the quantity of your doing. This process is a retraining of your entire nervous system. It's about creating moments of pause in your day. When you feel the pressure to act, to hustle, you must learn to stop, take a breath, and ask yourself, from what energy is this urge arising? Is it expansive or constrictive? Is it from a place of fear or a place of inspiration? If you feel this guide is bringing clarity to your own journey, if it is creating aha moments for you, I encourage you to share this audiobook with someone in your life who you feel might be caught in this same trap of hustle and surrender. The simple act of sharing wisdom is itself an inspired action that amplifies its power in your own life. This is the central transmutation. To learn to act, not from the frantic calculations of the mind, but from the quiet, powerful wisdom of the soul. In our next chapter, we will explore the daily tools and practices that allow you to consistently tune your instrument to this frequency of inspiration, making it not a rare event, but your new default state of being. Chapter 4. Tuning the instrument, daily practices for financial resonance. An alchemist knows that you cannot perform a delicate transmutation with a dirty, untuned instrument. Your consciousness, your mind-body system, is that instrument. If it is filled with the noise of stress, cluttered with limiting beliefs, and vibrating with the anxiety of the collective, you will be unable to hear the subtle whispers of inspiration. Therefore, becoming a master of inspired action requires a commitment to a daily practice of tuning your inner frequency. This is non-negotiable. It is the foundational work upon which all external success is built. It is what creates the inner coherence that allows you to become a clear channel for abundance. Let's explore some of the most powerful of these practices. These are not chores to be added to your to-do list. They are sacred rituals that anchor you in the frequency of prosperity. The first and most essential practice is meditation. I know you've heard it before, but I want you to reframe your understanding of what meditation is for. For our purposes as alchemists, meditation is not about stopping your thoughts. That's impossible. It is about creating a space between you and your thoughts. It is the practice of detaching from the frantic, conditioned mind, the voice of hustle, fear, and lack, and connecting with the silent, spacious awareness that lies beneath. This is the part of you that is always in a state of peace, wholeness, and connection to the divine. This is the source of all inspired thought. A simple daily practice of 20 minutes of silence can radically alter your energetic baseline. Simply sit, close your eyes, and focus on your breath. When thoughts arise, and they will, simply notice them without judgment, like clouds passing in the sky, and gently return your focus to your breath. You are not fighting your mind. You are teaching it to be still. You are signaling to your nervous system that it is safe to move out of survival mode, the state of hustle, and into a state of creative presence. By doing this consistently, you create a calm inner sea, and the whispers of inspired action, which are easily lost in the storm of a busy mind, can finally rise to the surface and be heard. The second practice is intentional. Breathwork. Your breath is the most direct and powerful tool you have for shifting your energetic and physiological state in an instant. The short, shallow breathing pattern of a stressed-out hustler keeps the body in a state of fight or flight. It signals danger and scarcity to every cell. Conversely, deep, slow, diaphragmatic breathing activates the parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest state. This is the physiological state of safety, receptivity, and flow. A simple yet profound practice is the box breath. Inhale for a count of 4. Hold your breath for a count of 4. Exhale for a count of 4. And hold the exhale for a count of 4. Repeat this for just 5 minutes. Do it before you start your workday. Do it in your car between meetings. Do it whenever you feel the constricting energy of hustle taking over. This simple act short-circuits the stress response and immediately begins to shift your frequency from one of franticness to one of centered calm. It creates an instant pattern interrupt, giving you the space to choose a response rather than simply reacting from conditioning. The third practice is conscious reflection and journaling. Your mind is brilliant at creating stories, but it's often running on old, outdated software, beliefs about money, work, and your own worthiness that you absorbed as a child. A daily reflection practice is how you consciously rewrite that code. We will explore 2 specific, powerful journaling rituals later in our journey, the mirror of worth and the forgiveness ledger. For a daily practice, I recommend a simple frequency check-in. At the end of each day, open a journal and answer 3 questions. When did I feel most in a state of flow and expansion today? When did I feel the most resistance and constriction today? What is the one thing my intuition whispered to me today that I might have ignored? This is not about self-judgment. It is about data collection. You are becoming a curious scientist of your own energetic landscape. By simply noticing the patterns, you begin to dissolve them. You start to see, with undeniable clarity, the correlation between your inner state and your outer experience. This awareness is the first step toward consciously choosing the frequency of flow more and more often. I had a client, a financial advisor, who did this for 30 days. He discovered that his most resistant moments were always when he was about to call a client to discuss performance, an action rooted in a fear of their judgment. His most expansive moments were when he was teaching and explaining complex concepts. This single insight led him to restructure his entire business around education, workshops, writing, and seminars. His income tripled within a year, not because he worked harder, but because he aligned his actions with his natural state of flow. These practices, meditation, breathwork, and reflection, are the pillars of your inner alchemy. They are what keep your instrument tuned. They are not a luxury. They are the most potent and high-leverage work you can possibly do. Neglecting this inner work to spend more time on frantic outer work is like a woodcutter refusing to sharpen his axe because he is too busy chopping. It's a fool's errand. Commit to these practices. Make them a sacred, non-negotiable part of your day. This is how you build the internal foundation strong enough to hold the weight of true, sustainable abundance. This is how inspiration becomes not a happy accident, but your natural way of navigating the world. Chapter 5. Inspired Action in Practice. Aligning wealth with your soul's code theory is illuminating. But transformation happens in the trenches of our daily lives. How do we take these esoteric concepts of frequency and alignment and apply them to the very real, very grounded world of careers, finances, and business? This is where the alchemist becomes a master craftsman, consciously shaping their material world to reflect their inner truth. This chapter is about the practical application of inspired action in your wealth creation journey. It begins with the practice of setting sacred boundaries. In the world of hustle, saying no is seen as a weakness, a missed opportunity. In the world of alchemy, saying no is one of the most powerful creative acts you can perform. Every time you say no to something that feels constricting, draining, or misaligned, you are creating a sacred, empty space. And it is in that empty space that the universe can deliver the opportunity that is in true resonance with you. A yes that comes from a place of obligation, fear, or people-pleasing is an energetic liability. It drains your life force and clutters your frequency with resentment. You must become a fierce guardian of your energy. This means saying no to the client that feels like a vampire, even if you think you need the money. It means saying no to the project that your mind says is prestigious, but your soul says is empty. It means saying no to the social invitation that leaves you feeling depleted. I remember a young entrepreneur I worked with who was on the verge of burnout. He was saying yes to everything, terrified of missing out. His calendar was a monument to hustle. I gave him a simple challenge. For 1 month before saying yes to any new commitment, he had to pause and ask his body, is this a hell yes or is it anything less? If it wasn't a clear, expansive, full-body hell yes, he had to say no. It was terrifying for him. He turned down 3 projects in the first week. But in the 4th week, because he had created that space, the single perfect project, the one that lit him up and was worth more than the other 3 combined, landed in his lap. His no was the magnet for the right yes. Next, we must learn to align our career choices and financial steps with our spiritual values. For too long, we have been taught to compartmentalize our lives. We have our spiritual life over here, and our work and money life over there, and we hope they don't interfere with each other too much. This is a recipe for a fractured soul and a blocked flow of abundance. True wealth is holistic. It is created when your method of earning money is a direct expression of your deepest values and your soul's purpose. This requires a radical honesty with yourself. Look at how you earn a living. Does it energize you? Does it allow you to express your unique gifts? Does it contribute something of value to the world that you genuinely believe in? Or is it simply a means to an end, a transaction you endure to pay the bills? If it's the latter, please hear me, you are not trapped. But you are being called to a journey of realignment. This doesn't necessarily mean quitting your job tomorrow. The inspired action here might be small. It might be signing up for a class that interests you. It might be starting a small side project on the weekends that you're passionate about. It might be identifying the parts of your current job that do feel aligned and finding ways to do more of them. The key is to start moving your energy and attention towards what feels expansive and resonant. Where your attention goes, your energy flows, and your reality will eventually follow. Stop feeding the misaligned path with your precious life force. Even a 5% shift in direction, maintained over time, will lead you to a completely different destination. This alignment also applies to how you use your money. Every dollar you spend is a vote for the kind of world you want to live in, and the kind of energy you want in your life. Does your spending reflect your values? Are you funding businesses and practices that align with your spirit? Or is your spending unconscious, driven by impulse and the need to fill an inner void? Conscious spending, or what I call sacred commerce, turns every financial transaction into a spiritual practice. It is another way to keep your frequency tuned to integrity and abundance. This entire process of realignment is a dance between bold moves and patient unfolding. There will be moments when the inspired action is to take a great leap of faith. And there will be moments when the inspired action is to simply stay put, do your inner work, and allow the next step to reveal itself. The wisdom lies in knowing which is which, and that wisdom doesn't come from a book or a guru. It comes from the daily practice of tuning in, listening to your own body, and learning to trust the subtle language of your soul. Chapter 6. Healing the resistance, the role of forgiveness and trust. Even with the best intentions and the most resonant daily practices, there will be days when you fall back into old patterns. You will find yourself hustling. You will catch yourself in a state of passive waiting. You will feel the old anxieties and constrictions creep back in. When this happens, it is crucial that you do not meet this lapse with judgment or self-criticism. That would only be adding another layer of resistant, low-frequency energy to the mix. This journey is not about perfection. It's about awareness. The moment you notice you've fallen out of alignment is a moment of victory, not failure. Because in that moment of awareness, you have a choice. And the most powerful choice you can make is to meet yourself with compassion. This is where the deep healing work of forgiveness and trust comes in. They are the universal solvents that dissolve the energetic blockages that keep us stuck. Let's first speak of forgiveness. Many of us are carrying a heavy energetic debt related to money and work. It's the guilt from past financial mistakes, the shame of being in debt, the resentment towards others who we feel have wronged us financially, the anger at a system we perceive as unfair. This unresolved emotional energy is like a massive anchor dragging behind your ship. It doesn't matter how hard you row towards the shore of abundance. This anchor will keep you stuck in the deep waters of lack. You must be willing to forgive. And this forgiveness has 3 primary targets. First, you must forgive others, not because they deserve it, but because you deserve peace. Holding on to resentment is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. It only pollutes your own energy field. It keeps you tethered to a low-frequency past, preventing you from vibrating at the level of your desired future. Forgiveness is the act of cutting that energetic cord. It is a declaration that you will no longer allow the events of the past to dictate the frequency of your present. Second, you must forgive the circumstances. Forgive the economy. Forgive the unfair system. Forgive the bad luck. To rail against these things is to place yourself in a state of victimhood. A victim, by definition, has no power. When you fight against reality, you lose every time. Acceptance is not endorsement. It is the simple, powerful recognition of what is. From this place of calm acceptance, you reclaim your power to choose your response, to find the opportunity within the obstacle. And third, and most importantly, you must forgive yourself. You must forgive yourself for every perceived financial mistake, the bad investment, the missed opportunity, the money you squandered. You made the best decisions you could with the awareness and resources you had at the time. Full stop. Shame and guilt are among the lowest frequency emotions. They broadcast a powerful signal of unworthiness to the universe. You cannot attract abundance from a state of shame. It is an energetic impossibility. You must be willing to look at your past self with compassion, thank them for the lessons, and release them. Releasing this guilt is like taking off a 100-pound backpack you didn't even realize you were carrying. Alongside forgiveness, we must cultivate its powerful twin, trust. Trust is the ultimate surrender. But remember our distinction. It is not the passive abdication of a victim, but the active, courageous trust of a co-creator. It is a deep, embodied knowing that you are supported. It is the trust that even when things don't look the way you thought they would, a higher intelligence is at work, orchestrating events for your ultimate good. Trusting the process means understanding that your journey will not be a straight line. There will be detours. There will be moments of apparent stillness. There will be times when it feels like nothing is happening. These are not signs that it's not working. Often these are periods of integration, where the universe is rearranging the stage behind the scenes for your next big entrance. I had a client who took a huge leap of inspired action and left her corporate job to start a wellness coaching business. For the first 3 months, she had almost no clients. Her savings dwindled. The voice of hustle and fear screamed in her ear every single day. "You made a mistake. Go back to your old job." It took all of her strength to stay in trust, to continue her daily practices, to keep showing up from a place of service rather than desperation. Then in the 4th month, a single person she had spoken to briefly at a coffee shop months prior referred her to a corporation for a wellness workshop. That one contract was worth 6 months of her old salary. The universe had been working for her all along, but the seed needed time to germinate in the darkness before it could sprout. If she had panicked and dug it up, she would have destroyed the harvest. This is the trust we must cultivate. Surrender without passivity. It is the faith that when you do your part, when you manage your frequency and take the inspired actions that arise from it, the universe will, without fail, do its part. I invite you now, as you listen, to reflect on a financial decision from your past that still carries the sting of guilt or shame. Just bring it to mind. And as you continue to listen, I want you to consider a new possibility. What if that event wasn't a mistake, but a lesson? What if it was a necessary part of your curriculum on this earth? Share in the comments below. If you feel comfortable, one word that describes the lesson that mistake taught you. Was it discernment, self-worth, boundaries? By sharing, we alchemize that past pain into present wisdom. Chapter 7. Stories from the Crucible. Real-life transformations. The principles of alchemy can seem abstract until we see the gold. We've explored the theory, the practices, and the mindset shifts. Now let us ground this journey in the lived experiences of those who have walked this path. These are stories of real people, though their names and details have been changed for privacy. They are stories from the Crucible, the vessel of intense pressure and heat where transformation occurs. They are proof that this is not just a beautiful philosophy, but a practical and powerful path to a new reality. Consider the story of David. David was a software engineer, a classic hustler. He believed his value was tied directly to his output. He worked tirelessly, chasing promotions and stock options. He achieved a level of financial success that many would envy, but he was miserable. He suffered from anxiety, insomnia, and a profound sense of emptiness. He came to me feeling broken, saying, "I have everything I thought I wanted, so why do I feel like I have nothing?" David's work was to learn the art of stillness. The idea of meditating for 20 minutes a day was, for him, a form of torture initially. His mind raced with to-do lists and anxieties. But he committed. Slowly, painfully at first, he began to create a space between himself and his compulsive drive to do. His first inspired action was shockingly simple. Take a real lunch break away from his desk without his phone. This small act of rebellion against his hustle conditioning was monumental. During one of these lunch breaks, sitting in a park, he had a sudden, clear vision for a mobile application, not a complex, billion-dollar idea, but a simple app to help people with anxiety. Using some of the breathing techniques he himself was learning, the idea felt expansive, joyful. It wasn't about the money. It was about the creation, about solving a problem he understood intimately. He began working on it in the evenings, not with the grinding energy of hustle, but with a sense of play and flow. Long story short, he eventually left his high-paying job to work on his app full-time. Today, his income from the app has surpassed his old salary, but more importantly, he says, "I feel like I'm breathing for the first time in my life." The wealth is a beautiful byproduct, but the real treasure is that I found my way back to myself. David had to learn to value being overdoing to unlock a level of abundance that combined both prosperity and peace. Then there is the story of Sophia. Sophia was on the opposite end of the spectrum. She was a gifted artist who had fully embraced the surrender model to her own detriment. She believed that if her art was good enough, the universe would simply bring her buyers. She resisted anything that felt like marketing or business, seeing it as unspiritual and icky. As a result, she was struggling deeply, living in a state of constant financial precarity, which was ironically killing her creative spirit. Sophia's work was to heal her relationship with the energy of commerce. She had to understand that inspired action could apply to the business side of her art as well. Her first alchemical shift was to stop seeing marketing as selling out and to reframe it as sharing her gift. This single mindset change unlocked everything. Her first inspired action was not to run a complex ad campaign, but simply to start an email newsletter where she told the personal stories behind each of her paintings. It was an action that felt authentic and joyful to her. She wasn't selling, she was connecting. People responded powerfully. They weren't just buying a painting. They were buying a piece of her story, a piece of her soul. Her business transformed. She learned that aligned commerce is a spiritual practice. It's an exchange of value and energy that, when done from a place of integrity and service, blesses both the giver and the receiver. Sophia had to integrate the spiritual with the material, to understand that money could be a beautiful and sacred energy carrier for her art. She learned that inspired action sometimes means sending an invoice, and that there is nothing unspiritual about it. These stories illustrate the two sides of the same coin. David had to let go of the hustle. Sophia had to embrace aligned action. Both had to find the third path. Both had to redefine their relationship with effort and trust. Both had to do the inner work of tuning their frequency before their outer world could change. Your story is waiting to be written. You may see yourself in David's burnout or Sophia's stagnation, or perhaps your situation is a unique blend of both. It doesn't matter where you are starting from. The principles are the same. The path is available. The crucible of your own life is ready. The heat is on, not to destroy you, but to burn away all that is not you, leaving only the pure, untarnishable gold of your true, abundant self. Chapter 8. The Mirror of Worth. A ritual to anchor your new reality. We have journeyed far, from the illusions of hustle and surrender to the truth of inspired action. We've seen how this path transforms lives. Now we must anchor this new reality deep within your subconscious mind. For it is one thing to understand a principle intellectually, and another thing entirely to embody it as your truth. One of the most powerful and direct rituals for this embodiment is what I call the mirror of worth. Your external financial reality is a direct reflection of your internal sense of worthiness. If on a deep level you do not feel worthy of wealth, you will unconsciously sabotage any opportunity for it to enter and stay in your life. You will overspend, under-earn, and make poor financial decisions, all in an attempt to make your outer world match your inner blueprint of not enough. This ritual is designed to directly confront and rewrite that blueprint. It is simple, requires no special equipment, and if practiced consistently, it will alchemize your self-perception, which is the root of all financial creation. Here is the practice, sometime each day, preferably in the morning, before the noise of the world has intruded. Or in the evening after it has subsided, find a mirror. Stand before it alone. Take a few deep cleansing breaths, using the box breath we discussed earlier, to center yourself and calm your nervous system. Now, look into the mirror. And I mean truly look. Don't just glance at your reflection. Look past the surface, past the hair you don't like or the lines on your skin. Make eye contact with the being looking back at you. Connect with the consciousness behind those eyes. This can be intensely uncomfortable at first. That discomfort is a sign that you are touching upon something true and powerful. Stay with it. Once you have established this connection, you are going to speak a series of declarations aloud. It is crucial that you speak them. The vibrational power of your own voice is a key ingredient in this alchemical recipe. With unwavering eye contact, say the following, pausing to truly feel the resonance of each statement. I see the divine within you. Pause, breathe, let the truth of that statement land. I acknowledge your inherent worth, which is not dependent on your productivity or your bank balance. Pause. Feel the relief in that statement. I am willing to receive abundance now. I'm open to receiving it from expected and unexpected sources. Pause. Feel the energy of receptivity opening within you. You are a powerful creator. You are capable of building a life of profound freedom and prosperity. Pause. Acknowledge the power that resides within you. And finally, the most important statement of all. Look deep into your own eyes and say, with as much conviction as you can muster, I love you. I'm proud of you for how far you have come. And I am here with you every step of the way. Hold your own gaze for another 30 seconds in silence. Let the energy of those words soak into your being. Then take one final deep breath and you are done. When you first begin this practice, it may feel absurd. Your inner critic, the voice of your old programming, will likely scream in protest. It will tell you you're being arrogant, foolish, or dishonest. It will bring up every mistake you've ever made as evidence against these declarations. Your job is to simply notice that voice and continue with the practice anyway. You are not trying to defeat the inner critic. You are simply building a new voice, a new neural pathway that is stronger, more resonant, and more aligned with the truth of who you are. With repetition, the voice of worthiness will become the default, and the voice of the critic will fade into a distant whisper. I have seen this single practice create more profound financial shifts in my clients' lives than any complex investment strategy. A woman who could never bring herself to ask for a raise did this for a month, walked into her boss's office and negotiated a 30% salary increase with unshakable calm. An entrepreneur who constantly underpriced his services finally began charging what he was worth, and his business took off. Why? Because they were no longer seeking validation from the external world. They had learned to generate the frequency of worthiness from within. And the universe, the great mirror, had no choice but to reflect that new, powerful frequency back to them in the form of increased income and opportunity. Commit to this ritual. Treat it as a sacred appointment with your soul. It is the deep work. It is the real work. It is the alchemy that turns the lead of self-doubt into the indestructible gold of self-worth. Chapter 9. The Forgiveness Ledger. Releasing the energetic debt of guilt, we have rebuilt your foundation of worthiness with the mirror of worth. Now we must perform a sacred act of clearing. We must release the old, heavy, energetic debts of the past that are still silently weighing you down. As we discussed earlier, the guilt, shame, and resentment you hold around money are like anchors. The ritual of the forgiveness ledger is the alchemical fire that will melt those chains. This is a practice of radical release. It requires courage and a willingness to be honest with yourself. But the freedom on the other side is immeasurable. It is the key to creating a clean, energetic slate from which you can build your new reality of abundance. For this ritual, you will need a piece of paper and a pen. This is not to be done on a computer. The physical act of writing is essential. You will also need a safe place to burn the paper afterwards, such as a fireplace, a fire pit, or a fire-safe bowl. Find a quiet time when you will not be disturbed. Light a candle if you wish, to signify the sacred nature of this work. Take a few moments to breathe deeply and center yourself. At the top of the paper, write the title, The Forgiveness Ledger. Now, you are going to create 3 sections on this paper. Section 1, I forgive others. In this section, you will write down the name of every person, institution, or entity that you feel has wronged you financially. It could be a former business partner who cheated you, a parent who taught you limiting beliefs about money, a company that laid you off unfairly, a system you feel is rigged against you. For each entry, write their name, and then complete the sentence. I forgive you for state the specific wrong, and I release all energetic claims on you. I set myself free. Do not censor yourself. Do not judge what comes up. If you have to write, I forgive the entire banking system, then write it. The purpose here is not to condone their actions. It is to release the poison from your own system. You are taking your power back. Take your time with this. You may be surprised at the old resentments that surface. Write them all down until you feel empty. Section 2. I forgive myself. This is often the most difficult and most powerful section. Here you will list every single financial mistake for which you still carry guilt or shame. The bad investment, the debt you accumulated, the time you were irresponsible, the opportunity you were too afraid to take. For each entry, write down the specific event and then complete the sentence. I forgive myself for state the specific event. I did the best I could with the awareness I had. I accept the lesson and release the shame. Be brutally honest and deeply compassionate with yourself. Dig deep. Acknowledge the pain you caused yourself. And then, consciously, with the power of your word, release it. Write until there is nothing left to confess. This act of naming and forgiving dissolves the energetic charge of the past. Section 3. I ask for forgiveness. In this final section, you will list anyone you may have wronged financially, whether intentionally or unintentionally. Perhaps you failed to repay a loan to a friend on time. Perhaps you were not generous when you could have been. Perhaps your own financial stress caused you to treat someone poorly. For each entry, write their name and complete the sentence. I ask for forgiveness from name for state the specific wrong. I release this energetic debt between us. You do not need to contact these people in person unless your intuition strongly guides you to do so. The primary work here is energetic. It is about clearing your side of the ledger, taking responsibility for your own actions, and neutralizing any lingering energetic cords of guilt. When you have completed all 3 sections, read the entire ledger aloud one time. Feel the weight of these events as you speak them, and then feel the lightness as you declare them forgiven and released. Now take the paper to your safe burning place. As you light it on fire, hold the intention that you are releasing all of this dense, heavy energy back to the universe to be transmuted into light. Watch the paper burn. Watch the names and the events turn to smoke and ash. As the last embers fade, speak these words aloud. It is done. My past is cleared. My energy is my own. I am free to create my future from this present moment of pure potential. You may feel a profound sense of lightness afterwards. You may feel emotional. You may feel tired. This is all normal. You have just performed a major energetic surgery on yourself. Be gentle with yourself for the rest of the day. Drink plenty of water, rest. This is not a one-time fix. You can perform this ritual whenever you feel the weight of the past creeping back in. Each time you do, you will go deeper, clearing another layer. By practicing the mirror of worth and the forgiveness ledger, you are performing the 2 great works of the alchemist, building the new and clearing the old. You are making yourself a clean, clear, and worthy vessel for the flow of infinite abundance. Outro. Becoming the flow. Your journey. Forward. We have reached the end of this particular part of our journey together, but in truth, it is a beginning. You now hold the keys to a new reality. You understand the fallacy of the 2 false paths and have been initiated into the 3rd way, the way of inspired action. You have the tools to tune your frequency, the rituals to anchor your worthiness, and the wisdom to release the past. You have everything you need. The journey from here is one of practice. It is about taking these principles off the page and weaving them into the fabric of your daily life. It is about choosing, moment by moment, the energy of alignment over the habit of striving. It will not always be easy. Your old conditioning will arise to challenge you. The world will try to pull you back into the gospel of hustle. In those moments, I want you to remember the feeling. Remember the feeling of expansion versus constriction. That feeling is your compass. It is your true north. It will never lie to you. Trust it more than you trust the fearful chatter of your mind. Trust it more than you trust the loud demands of the outside world. Your challenge, should you choose to accept it, is to become a living embodiment of this work. To make your life, your career, your finances, your very way of being, a testament to the power of living in the flow. Abundance is not something you acquire. It is something you become. And you become it not by chasing and grasping, but by aligning and allowing. By transmuting your inner state, you will inevitably and magnificently transform your outer world. The great work continues. As we conclude, allow me to guide your attention for a final moment. On the left of your screen, you will find a portal to continue your learning within the Alchemist's treasury, a playlist dedicated to the practical strategies of wealth creation. And on the right, I have personally selected our guide, the 10 alchemical steps to build spiritually aligned multiple income streams for lasting wealth, as the perfect next step to put today's principles into powerful, tangible practice. And of course, the subscribe button remains in the center, an open invitation to continue this journey with us. This is Elias Vance, reminding you, the greatest wealth you will ever own is the knowledge of who you truly are.